I've been in infection control for quite a long time. Currently work as a nurse consultant with the ICB in London, North Central London. I'm also work as a nurse consultant with a microbiology company, UCOMS, or United Kingdom Orthopaedic Microbiology, hence UCOMS. It's a bit of a tongue twister. And a specialist advisor to B. Braun, who do a lot of skincare products and gels and things like that. I used to be IPC lead nurse at Sheffield Children's Hospital and specialist at Sheffield Teaching Hospitals. But today, the primary focus is my London role. And it's around primary care. It's not the sole focus for today, but it's a big chunk of what I'm doing. I'm happy to be proved wrong, but as far as I know, I'm the only IPC specialist employed from an ICB point of view with the estates team. I've gone from working with clinicians and consultants to working with builders, architects and planners. So all of my meetings now are looking at the physical buildings that we're building in primary care at the moment, and are they conducive, are they compliant? Do they conform with the guidance from an infection control point of view, or are we building the right buildings? So that's where so it's quite forward thinking of the ICB down there to get someone like me in to look at what are we building? Are we building the right premises to make patient safety and IPC compliant healthcare? So that's where we're coming from. So where to start? What do we do? What are the problems? I'll say from the offset, I was dropped into my role in London without any warning whatsoever. They said, can we speak to you about your CV? And they dropped me into a full interview with several directors. I was sat on a Teams call in a t-shirt and shorts, not expecting to know. So you'd be pleased to know there are a lot of photographs in this presentation. So I will go through lots of photographs, but where to start? I had and still have no formal job description. I've created the role for myself essentially by going out to all regional leads and borough leads within the ICB and saying, right, this is me, this is what I am, this is what I can do, point me in the right direction, use me as a blunt tool to look at where we are. So where to start? We looked at some of the guidance that we've got. Now, a lot of the guidance, as you're all fully aware, is related to IPC best practice. And whether it's for society, whether it's journals, whether it's manuals or teachings or anything else, we've been to lots of conferences, all of us, looking at hand washing, environment, what it's like, is it safe to practice? But this is a note to everyone in here for any feedback forms that you may want to fill in later on. I came to a Knowledge conference in February, I think the last one was. And I put on the feedback form, yeah, it's brilliant about hearing all antimicrobial resistance, things like that. It's absolutely really, really important. But there's no one talking about the physical space that you're doing your healthcare in. So I put that on the feedback form, and a few months later, I'm here. So just a word of warning to you all. So, so best practice is very, very important, but I keep putting these little things in that slide up and down, but it's a bit of a pain when you've got a button. So things like, I'm not doing the mandatory training session, you're pleased to know. It gives you things like standard precautions. Lots of research gives us standard precautions. Hand hygiene, respiratory PPE, you name it. There's a bit about healthcare environment, but when we usually talk about healthcare environments, we talk about the physical layout and is a sink obstructed, is the cabinetry in place and various things like that. I'm now talking about the physical size of the rooms and what you have in there and is it appropriate and is it compliant. So these are really, really important, but there's lots of other things around IPC in the built environment that lots of people just aren't aware of, or if they are aware, they're aware superficially. Things like these. Has anyone ever heard of a HBN, Health Building Note? Most of you will have, probably. I can't see it under the light. HBN 0009, infection control in the built environment, is a key cornerstone of lots of things that we all do, all look at from a healthcare building point of view. But there are lots and lots and lots of other ones, 32 as it says there, of different things related to healthcare building and things that we need to be aware of to make them safe and IPC compliant. As you can see, with lots of the dates next to all these bits of guidance, there are lots of them that are 10, 12, 13 years old. Some are newer, some are older. Lots of things have developed, changed, technology changes all the time. And they're being updated as fast as they can be updated, but they're not in date, lots of them. So the health building notes relate to, as it says there, best practice guidance of design and planning of new healthcare buildings and adaptation or extension of new bits of different facilities. Slightly different is a health technical memoranda. This relates to the installation and operation and design of buildings. So one relates to the guidance, one relates to actual physical buildings themselves. There are slightly less of these. Some are applicable to lots of places, some aren't. Some are applicable to primary care, but some aren't. But primary care and healthcare and acute care really all fall under the same umbrella. It's about patient safety and IPC best practice and compliance. That light is really annoying, isn't it? One thing I've looked at, certainly we talked this morning about in a post-COVID world, because apparently it's gone, is HBN 0301, specialist ventilation in healthcare premises. Really, really important. You've seen lots of things through the COVID pandemic about ventilation in healthcare being so important, and transmission, and you see things about bugs being blown around by the ventilation, or if there's no ventilation there, the bugs just sit around and they can infect and colonize people. So ventilation is of vital importance. In the primary care world, which I'll go on to in a little bit later, it's the guidance within HBN 0301 for a GP consultation room, and HBN 1101 is neutral ventilation in a consulting room in a GP practice. Now, there is an attempt at a description of what neutral ventilation is, but it's not clear. The amount of places I've been to we're compliant, we've got a window that can open, but it's never open because you're sat next to a main road. Things like that. So there's lots of things about ventilation that are really, really important, but being aware of all these other regulations and guidance is vitally important from a healthcare buildings point of view. Now, the problem is, yes, I'm talking mainly about primary care in the ICB, but this goes along everywhere you can work, really. We're working with dated, old, overused, underused sometimes, and buildings that are just non-compliant. You know, we're performing lots and lots of healthcare, mainly in primary care, but not always, that are just not fit for use. Lots of the places I've been to. One example, lots of these photos I've got I've anonymised. So one example is a minor ops suite in a GP practice in London, which is fully carpeted, including the walls. And they do minor ops up to things like carpal tunnels and things like that, so reasonably invasive stuff, with one kitchen sink in the corner, no scrub sink, no ventilation, a wide open window next to a main road, and fully carpeted. And that's been operated and used on every day, or every weekday, since it was done in 1983, I think it was built. So there are lots and lots of issues with lots and lots of facilities looking at the physical environment where we're actually performing healthcare. Yes, you can have a brilliant hand wash technique in this kitchen sink, but then you're operating in an area that's totally non-compliant. You know, so it's really, really important to look at. And the bottom one there, mismanaged, I'll explain that on the next slide. Here we start with the pictures. This is really sad, I've got more photos of hospitals and environments than I have of my own kids. It's pathetic. But it's, I really should get a work phone, because I haven't. So there's lots of standard things we mentioned earlier about chairs not being cleaned and not being cleanable. That's the biggest two words really that I use when I go out. Is it clean or cleanable? You know, and if it comes to a point when you can't clean it, you shouldn't be there. Simple as that. And I know we mentioned earlier. So things like that, carpet. I'm going to move away from the mic slightly, but you got carpet. You've got a lovely kitchen sink with a splashback that's completely split. God only knows what's behind there. This one here I removed it because I couldn't cope with it. That hook there had a lovely, lovely greasy towel on there that people used to dry their hands while they were washing hands. So you can have the best technique possibly in the world, then you go and dry your hands on a towel. You know, things like that that are really important and mismanaged. These are both from the same practice, both in London. Again, I'm not telling you where. I went to do a walk round of one of the sites in London, and this was the health visiting room. The health visitor was there while we went in, and I said, "Oh, look at the flooring. What's the problem there?" And I said, and this health visitor said to me, I was with the practice manager. She said, "Oh, it's been like that since I've been here." I said, "How long have you been here?" I said, 5 years. Which is why I say mismanaged. The practice manager knew all about this. They knew that they got completely split flooring, completely uncleanable flooring, but it's been there for 5 years and they know all about it. They can get funding for it, they can change it, it's non-compliant, but is that mismanaged? I would think so. It's a real problem. How they've got through any formal inspection, I really don't know, but they clearly have. You've seen these units in sluice rooms and dirty utility rooms. That is in the corner of a clinical room. It's a waste bucket, a wastewater disposal unit, but it's got a hand wash sink, so heavy cloud. You've got a hand wash sink, compliant hand wash sink, compliant taps, absolutely fine, right in the middle of two workstations, so you easily contaminate either side of that while you're washing your hands. You know, it's the physical environment we're working in that aren't playing ball. It's a real problem. And that one at the end there, it's an old reception area. You can see the roller shutter, what used to be the reception. Decided to make it into a storeroom, but they stored everything in there, all sorts of stuff. And it was just wholly non-compliant. You couldn't get in. You were crawling, touching things as you get to the far side. I've got a lot of worse photographs than that, but it gets better. So you've got a lovely compliant, technically, hand wash basin itself. You can elbow control the tap, you can't see the top of it, but the whole area around that is just not at all appropriate, and you know there could be various things growing in there, couldn't there? So lots and lots and lots of photos like that. Storerooms, I've got a few lovely pictures of storerooms later. Fully carpeted, absolutely crammed. Totally uncleanable, and almost every single practice I've been to, I've probably been to 50 or 60 already, the flooring is split. It is therefore becoming uncleanable. You know, I always hark back to the same two words, or three words, clean or cleanable, and you get to a point when these sorts of things, you just cannot clean them. You know, as I said before, you can have the best hand wash technique in the world, but you can't clean it properly. They're non-compliant. You'll love this one. These are all in the same practice. At great expense, apparently. These were put in several years ago from I don't know who it was, another IPC specialist came to the practice. I don't even know where from. They wouldn't tell me. And these are clinical rooms. Consulting rooms, GP consulting rooms. So, oh, you need a separate sink because you don't have anywhere to put samples and things like that. They didn't have a sluice or a dirty utility. You have to have a separate sink in each room. So one's used for hand washing, one's used for disposal of body fluids. And that's the sort of thing we're dealing with. They were told by an IPC specialist, I don't know who that was, that this is what you need. So at great expense, you had all these things put in. And I said, well, absolutely not. That is absolutely not what we advise. You need to readdress. And I can't then go and say, you need to rip it all out again, because they just spent a lot of money putting it in. But you need to have real clear pro formas of what to do, what you should and shouldn't be doing in that situation, because they really shouldn't be there together. Domestic rooms, cleaners' rooms, cleaning operative rooms. Sorry. Air cleaners. the cleaning operatives. I do listen. You know, the guidance says that they need to be a certain size, minimum of 6 to 8 square metres. The guidance says that you should have some ventilation because of the chemicals that you've got in there. The guidance also says that you need to have water disposal outlets for emptying mops and things like that. You know, tiny cupboards, I mean, what's the use of that really? Very similar, but no water. And what do they do with the water? Some places don't know, some places wouldn't tell me, some places, I know one place regularly put mop water down a hand wash basin. I know that for a fact because she told me. And then realised who I was, and then said she shouldn't have told me. So it's a real problem, and this is the physical infrastructure, the buildings that are operating in primary care. You know, so it's, I'll explain a little bit why. So what to do? I'm quite conscious of the time. I tend to talk an awful lot. So the deep dive undertook and still are doing a deep dive of the ICB primary care facilities. And we found on the initial findings, 43% of the primary care were built pre-NHS. So, and that's compared to a national average of about 20%. So the primary care network service and the state planning toolkit, that's a mouthful, have 3 broad labels: core, flex and tail. And what the guy who's doing the deep dive did, he's gone through every single GP primary care practice in North and Central London that we cover with the ICB, and he's categorised them reasonably loosely into whether the core, flex or tail. So they're the loose terms that he associated with this. So the tail properties, so the really poor ones, who no matter what you do with them, they're never really going to be compliant. There's flex that either may be supported, but could be, with a bit of funding, could be made into what you call a core property, or the core, which are good, new ones, state of the art, compliant with the guidance, which is really important. That's the initial study data, just a very brief overview. You can see there's a lot of the tail properties were built pre-1948, so we know that a lot of the estate that we're dealing with is just not compliant. It just isn't appropriate for the current healthcare. But what can we do about it? So, come on. And of all primary care property that we oversee, that includes dentists, care homes and everything else, 71% of it was built pre-NHS, so it's all very dated, or lots of it is very, very dated property. You know, you will rarely get a fully compliant old healthcare building. It'll work eventually if I keep pressing it. So I've had to alter lots of things that I do from my IPC background, because IPC auditing, as those of you who have done IPC auditing, tends to go under everything, on top of shelves, looking at, turn everything upside down. Are we looking at the right stuff? Are we looking for dust and everything else that goes along with it? I've had to change a lot of my viewpoint with IPC because I'm now related to the estates team. So it changes what you look for. I go into a GP practice, for example, and I'm not looking for dust. You do see it quite a lot, but I'm not looking for dust. I'm not looking to mark people down on environmental cleanliness. I'm looking at, are the room sizes appropriate? Have you got everything in there that you need? Is the cabinetry there? Is it safe? Is it cleanable? So I wrote a fairly chunky guidance on infection control in primary care and what you really should be looking for. And it's not rocket science. It's not really complicated. It's just amalgamating lots of bits of HBN and HTM guidance into a document that we could use usefully. Because no one really wants to read hundreds and hundreds of pages to find out one little bit of information. And a lot of the users, you know, as we mentioned earlier on today, people are busy. People are very, very busy in doing what they're doing in their working lives. You You don't have time to go through everything. So that's just a screenshot of the contents page. And it goes from just fixtures and fittings, you know, floor coverings, ceilings. We're looking at hand hygiene. Do they have appropriate clinical hand wash basins? What the problem is, if they do have a problem. Room provision, really important. It's still in the guidance that primary care places and premises have to have clean and dirty utilities as well as storerooms. You know, vast majority of them don't. But it's still in the guidance that they should. So, clean utility, dirty utility, the cleaner's cupboard, and these should be on every floor of the practice. I've been to so many practices, yeah, we've got a dirty utility on the ground floor, and there's 3 floors above it as well. So you're going to cart potentially tissue samples or fluid samples to dispose of down 3 or 4 floors to the nearest sluice. You know, there's lots of things, lots of discrepancies that we're dealing with. Room specifications, there should be a certain size if you're going to drill down to how big rooms should be. Consulting rooms should be about 16 square metres, roughly, a minimum of. You know, so, but I know of practices that have been marked down by auditors because their rooms are, for example, 15.5 square metres. You know, it's, there's just no need. So I go in, I've got one slide later on that I'm going to go on, so I'll stop talking there. I do tend to talk a lot. So ventilation, so lots of things are about it, and really important to have something that's easy to use, I think. And there's a section on it about derogation, because there's a lot of derogation from guidance, and what can we do if we can't comply with the guidance? You know, there's lots and lots of non-compliances, and what can we do in that instance? So on the back of this, I wrote an audit document aligning with magic. It's really sad I had to get my son to do that. It's pathetic. So it's aligning with the standards, the primary groups within the guidance document is IPC standards, hand hygiene, room provision, and ventilation. So, and this audit tool is just split into 4 relatively simple sections. It's not too long. It's only about 6 pages long. I've tabletized it so it can be on a tablet, so you can walk around with a clean tablet. You can wipe it. But it gives you a simple overview, and it's not going to drill down to the exact nth degree of every practice we ever go to, but it gives us an indication of where we are from that practice point of view and how we can use that to be useful. And it builds up a little dashboard, that's just a blank template of it, and it tells you at a glance which of these 4 areas are a problem for each site. Now, for example, I did really clumsily cross the name out, but I'm going to tell you about it because I've already got agreement from the managers that I can do that. It's called the Wellborn Medical Centre. It does look like a kid's done that, actually, so I'll apologise. Wellborn Medical Centre, it's a brand new GP facility, primary care hub in Haringey in London. And we did this audit on the site the day of opening, and clearly it's got 100% across the board, so it's fully compliant with everything, every bit of guidance that it needs to. So it's really, really good compared to some others, or another. I've done one much worse than this yesterday, actually. You know, things like ventilation is very, very poor. This is the one. It's some good tunes coming out. This is the one that the GP consulting rooms have to have neutral ventilation. That was a bit Tommy Cooper, that, sorry. But really important to note that neutral ventilation essentially means, have you got a window that you can open? Fundamentally, that's really what it means. And technically, 2 of these GP rooms had windows that you could open, one of which was sealed shut, as in physically screwed shut, because it was on a main road and it was too noisy and pollution. And the other one was, you walked into the room, it was like walking into a sauna, and they said, oh, we'll never open this window because it's backing onto a main road, and it's really noisy and it gets really full of pollution and pollutants. So we never ever open it. And when you walk into a healthcare treatment room and it's that hot, you just think, well, there's nothing coming in here, or very little coming in here. You know, things like, oh, we've got aircon units. So, well, aircon is not ventilation. You know, if you've got aircon units, you have to have a minimum of 20 to 25% fresh air coming into the building. And so most got aircon units, and said, well, that isn't ventilation. You know, there are new things around, new guidance with HEPA filters and UVC and things like that. But aircon alone is not ventilation, which I've had to stress to a lot of people. So on the back of all these audit tools, what we're doing at the moment is we're building an NCL-wide dashboard. Actually, we've got over 200 GP practices that I cover, and we're building a dashboard that covers the whole lot. So we're going to get an indication of where they are from an audit point of view across the whole of the GP network that we've got. So we can see where a lot of the infrastructure needs updating, we can see what the problems are, and we can see where funding it can be allocated. There are lots of different pots of funding, whether it's capital grants, local grants, fund allocation, landlord investment. There's lots of different pots of money, which, fairness, before I started this role, I didn't realise quite how many different pots of money there were that primary care and other places can access. So lots and lots of things going on, lots of funding options and lots of projects going on. My diary's full of meeting about buildings and planning and places that we can use some money to make them better, to get them from tail or get them from flex up to this core standard that we're trying to aim for. I am also developing a residential and care home model as well as dental practices, which I've already got, but so there's lots of scope, but my primary scope just at the moment in London is just the primary care side of it. So for those of you who don't work in primary care, work in hospitals, these are some more photos of hospitals. Have I got long left? 2 minutes? Wow. Okay, so that's one private hospital, working operating theatre, orthopaedic, laminar flow, taped up flooring. Rusty operating lights. That was a hospital that's been flooded 30 times in the last 20 years, and that was in the operating theatre. Water's coming through the wall in the operating theatre. So you see all sorts of sites about upkeep. Now, if I go that's the same hospital, and their theatre scrubs. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realise that there's a potential contamination issue. So there's all sorts of things out there that you need to look out for. Ventilation, I know I'm slightly rushing all of a sudden. The amount of times you go into some NHS hospitals, lots of independent hospitals, and some primary care, if they have mechanical ventilation. You've got air vents, so that's a bit dusty, but it's okay. Do you know what it does? Absolutely, I don't even know if it's turned on. So if you have ventilation in your buildings, you've got to have, and you need to have your facilities or estates teams to have a good idea of what's going on. Is it working? Is it doing what it should be doing? Because it's so many places that just don't have ventilation. That one at the end there is a CSS, sterile theatre equipment room. Should have at least 6 air changes per hour. That's at the side of the theatre in a sort of side alcove area with a ventilator that doesn't work at all. So they've got absolutely no ventilation, so it's never going to be compliant. And it's really real problematic. I just beat myself to it. You'll love this one. Is that okay from storage point of view in a healthcare building? No. That's where they store all the clean equipment. That rack there, sutures used in theatres, catheter packs, clean equipment, you name it. I'm not going to tell you where it is, but leaky ceilings. I looked at a catheter pack on one of the top shelves and had to scrape cobwebs off it, including spiders. So, and this had been in use for over 20 years. How the CQC have ever missed it, I really don't know, unless they just assumed it was a garden shed and never looked at it. But it's just have a look at your area. That's classed as a dirty utility. That's a dirty utility sink, surrounded by everything else, also used as an office. Real problem, the physical areas that we're working in, This is another sterile pack store with clean equipment, which is in the middle of a corridor in a theatre complex. No ventilation at all other than secondary air from theatres. And that is one of my favourites, which is a bit sad. That is classed as a dirty utility. It's a slop hopper sink with, you can't really see it very well, but it's got a tap on there for hand washing. You know, so just look at your areas. Right, last two slides and we know what we have done. I mentioned earlier about compliance versus IPC safety. A standard GP consulting room has to be a minimum of 16 square metres. That is the guidance. So what's correct? They're all 16 square metres. So it's about looking at safety and is it safe, is it conducive, are we compliant with what we need to do in that room? You know, if you've got a really long, very long, tall person who can walk to one end, that's, you know, you might get away with it. But usually we expect that. But the guidance says 16 square metres, it doesn't say size. So we're all aware that we're working different rooms of different sizes. So as big as safely possible. You know, if you think there's a risk of the room being not safe for practice and not safe for the work you're doing in there, then look at doing something about it. Speak to your IPC, speak to your estates team. Last slide. Common sense. You'll love that. That's a piece of sterile kit that had just arrived and they put it there while it was waiting to be used on top of a slop hopper. So just use your common sense and look at the environment you're working in, because lots of it will not be compliant with the guidance, some of it will be, and work with your IPC teams and your estates teams to look at collaborative working, which is mentioned. So, and I think that's it. Thank you for listening.